In episode 10, the Greyhounds continue to flourish on the pitch, but it is the international break. It's the point of the season where players go off and represent their home countries in international play. Some of those players are going to include Jamie Tart for England, Colin for Wales, and then the big match is going to be between Danny Rojas and Van Dam. Although Danny makes it painfully clear to Van Dam that he's not here to be his friend. They are currently enemies. The normally smiley, happy Danny Rojas has turned into an absolute stone-cold killer. The one person, though, surprisingly not chosen to represent their home country is Sam. And the slight is pretty big. The whole team feels bad for him because the whole team realizes that Sam Abasanya should be chosen for the Nigerian national team. Right before Ted goes off for the break, he goes and meets with Rebecca. Now, while things are going well with the Greyhounds, things have certainly taken a turn over at West Ham. Nate has resigned. He's out as head coach. They start hypothesizing what could have led to this, and Ted's like, it's none of my business, I really don't care. But according to Trent, he's hearing that it could be inappropriate workplace violations. And that just doesn't sound like Nate. Leslie then enters the meeting and he tells everybody that Edwin Akufu is back in town and he wants to start a Super League. Right after Leslie explains to Ted why a Super League would be horrible, Rebecca gets a phone call from Rupert, although she sends it straight to voicemail. That doesn't mean Rupert is going to give up, though. Later on in the day, when Rebecca's out of her office, she runs into Sam. She apologized to him that he didn't make the national team. It's a little bit of an awkward interaction between the two. But when she returns to her office, there's Rupert. He snuck in from the guy that works the sewers. Rupert figured that Rebecca wouldn't be returning his phone calls because, she hates him. But he wanted to get a hold of her because he wants to invite her to the meeting with Edwin Akufu. She's definitely suspicious, but she tells him, I'll give it some thought. As Rebecca thinks about what she's going to tell Rupert, everybody leaves the pitch behind. That includes Sam, who heads to his restaurant, and he's expecting a packed house because they were sold out, but he finds it empty. And that's because there's only one group there, and it's Edwin Akufu. He had called under fake aliases and booked the restaurant up only to cancel last minute. He also paid the Nigerian national team $20,000 to leave Sam off. And finally, he's looking to open a Nigerian restaurant just a few blocks away from Olu's. So time has not healed this wound for Edwin Akufu. Roy Kent had a better afternoon than Sam, that's for sure. Phoebe wanted to celebrate Uncle's Day, which is a made-up holiday that she created, but she just wanted to celebrate her favorite Uncle Roy. They had a little bit of a party that Roy is completely uncomfortable with the entire time, especially when he finds out that Phoebe invited Roy's best friend, Jamie. Now, both Jamie and Roy claim that they're not best friends, but as Phoebe points out to Roy, you talk about him all the time. You're always hanging out with him. So while they deny it, it does seem like Phoebe has a point. And it wasn't like Jamie came empty-handed. He brought Roy a gift. It's Roy's English national team jersey. Roy likes that a lot better than what Phoebe got him. She made him a tie-dye t-shirt with red, orange, and yellow because they spell out Roy. And it's just really not Roy's thing, but he accepts it anyway. He even wears it into the office the next day, which catches everybody by surprise. And while they don't have practice and they don't have a game, everybody came to the training facility because they want to watch the international games. They want to watch their teammates. Even Sam showed up, even though he's completely depressed. Now, Rebecca's not watching the game with her team. She's up in her office, but she's pondering what to do about this Rupert invitation. She's asked Keely, but Keely isn't getting back to her. So she asked Leslie his thoughts. What she's concerned with is the fact that Rupert only invited her because she's a woman, and it would look really good on the resume of the Super League if they had a woman representing them. And Leslie tells her, go. Take the meeting. Hey, at least you have a seat at the table. So, per Leslie's advice, Rebecca texts Rupert back and says, I'll be there. She then heads home, she reminds herself in the mirror who she is, and she heads off to go meet with this Edwin Akufu Super League. And it's as she expected. It's a lot of old white dudes who want to just line their pockets full of money. Edwin has a meal prepared beforehand, and then he makes his pitch. He's promising big returns for all of the teams invited. And some teams are immediately in. I mean, hey, who doesn't like more money? But Rebecca gets a text from Keely wishing her well, apologizing for not being able to get back to her, but giving her some advice, saying, just think of all of these old men as little boys. And it works. Rebecca envisions the whole table full of little boys, and she yells at them, saying, "What the hell are you guys doing? I mean, do you really need more money? You guys own these football clubs, but you don't own the football club. You don't realize how much these teams mean to these communities." She then tells a story to the entire table about a little boy who loved Richmond, but his family didn't have money to afford tickets, so he would sneak in. Eventually, one day, he got caught by a security guard, and he kicked that security guard in the balls, and he fled. And he didn't return until 25 years later, when he bought the club. And the first thing he did was find that security guard and give him a raise. And didn't even tell him the reason why. And of course, that kid was Rupert. And the whole message is basically, football is for people. It's not just for you to get rich off of. Now, to the dismay of Edwin, this speech works. The vote doesn't pass, teams don't join, and Edwin is furious, throwing food at people. It leaves both Rupert and Rebecca to just crack up laughing at how ridiculous his response was. But through the laughing, Rupert gets the sense that maybe there's something there, and he goes to kiss Rebecca, although she pulls back. Yeah, that thought is still pretty gross to her. Rupert, though, wasn't the only person that's thinking about rekindling a relationship. So is Roy. He went to go pick up Phoebe at her school, sporting that brand new tie-dye t-shirt that she made him. He sees her teacher, and he's always had a pretty good relationship with her teacher. She's always flirted back at him. And she mentions how he looks better. He looks lighter. Like the last time she saw him, he was just bogged down in his own crap, but now he just looks more spry. They're talking with the teacher, though. He realizes that he has kind of messed up things with Keely. He feels like he should apologize. So he rushes off, he buys a notepad, and he starts trying to jot down an apology to her. He goes to deliver it thinking that she won't be home, but to his surprise, she is. And that's because Keely has had a bad few days. She went into KJPR to find it being raided. People were taking furniture out, and she wasn't sure why. And it was Barbara who told her that the funding was being pulled. Jack was supposed to get in touch with her, but apparently she never did. Eventually, Jack did get in touch with her, but it was via text. So unfortunately, Keely has lost her dream job. So that's why Keely's home when Roy stops by in the middle of the day. Keely reads the note, but then makes Roy read the note. And the note says that Keely never did anything wrong. It was all him. He feels really bad if she ever felt like she wasn't worth it or good enough, because she is. And he loves her. They end up going in, hooking up. It's cool. And then later on in the day, Rebecca stops by. Rebecca fills Keely in on why she's covered in food and how she was the baddest bitch at this meeting. Keely fills Rebecca in on everything that happened with the KJPR fallout. And Rebecca asks, well, how much money could they possibly be investing in this? Keely goes back and forth with Rebecca because Keely ultimately doesn't want to take her friend's money. But when Rebecca sees how much money it would take to keep Keely's PR company open, she laughs at it. She's like, I have this in my pocket. Yeah, we can keep your company open. They then have a good laugh about the whole Rupert trying to kiss her thing, with Keely pointing out that Rebecca would have to be at her lowest moment to hook up with her ex. And that's when Roy walks in the room. The next day, Keely walks back into KJPR, but she's all alone. She had given Barbara a goodbye gift. It was a snow globe. But as Keely is trying to make phone calls, Barbara walks back in. She tells Keely that she told Jack she no longer wants to work for her, and she wants to work for Keely. So KJPR has doubled the amount of employees they have to 2. That's the same day that everybody also comes back to the pitch from international play. And the weirdest thing is Van Dam has a broken nose because of Danny Rojas, but Danny is back to his old self. He's laughing, he's joking. It really freaks out Van Dam. And just like Danny, Rebecca has also had a change in attitude. When Ted comes up to give her morning biscuits, she tells him, Ted, I've realized I no longer care if I beat Rupert. Yeah, I want to beat Rupert, but I now want to win for all of us, for Richmond, not just to beat him. Now, it's unfortunate that they don't play Rupert's team right now because Rupert's team doesn't have a coach, and Nate is going through it. He's got paparazzi parked outside, and Jade comes and visits him, and what he's dealing with is the thought that he just made a horrible mistake, like he quit his dream job. Although when Jade asks, "Do you regret it?" he says no. He's just wondering if it was the wrong move. Jade has to go out of town for a few days, so he's all alone. And he doesn't want to be surrounded by paparazzi, so in the middle of the night, he sneaks back to his parents' place. He kind of hunkers down in his childhood room. But eventually his parents go out to the farmer's market, and he's got the house all to himself. He goes up in the attic, he finds his old violin, and he starts playing it. But he's taken aback when he turns around and his dad is sitting there listening to him. His dad mentions how he misses listening to Nate play, and Nate's surprised at that because he vividly remembers his dad saying he hated listening to Nate play. And this leads to a heart-to-heart with Nate and his dad. His dad tells Nate, "I love you. It was just difficult for me because you're a genius. I mean, you've always seen things differently. So I wanted you to be the best. I wanted you to use your gift for good. I just didn't know how to go about doing that." For the first time, Nate feels like his dad truly does love him, especially when his dad says, "Nate, all I wanted was for you to be happy." And for the first time since he won that day about a week ago, Nate is happy with him and his parents just playing cards. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.